This is MedEvidence, truth behind the data. In this episode today, Dr. Michael Koren and Dr. Mitch Rothstein are kicking the nicotine habit. It's a brain thing. But first, Dr. Michael Koren is a practicing cardiologist and chief executive officer at Encore Research Group, which conducts clinical trials across Florida. He has been the principal investigator of over 2,000 trials and has been published in the most prestigious medical journals. Dr. Michael Koren received his medical degree cum laude at Harvard Medical School. Also joining us today is Dr. Mitch Rothstein. He's practiced clinical pulmonary and sleep medicine for over 30 years in Jacksonville. For the last 6 years, he has transitioned into clinical research as medical director of the Phase 1 unit at Jacksonville Center for Clinical Research. I do want to remind everybody, though, to learn more about what we're talking about, you can always go to encoredocs.com. The phone number is 904-730-0166. So, gentlemen, at the end of the last segment, we really kind of touched a tad on the trials that are being done for smoking cessation. So let's dive right back into that.
Sure. So as mentioned, we have been very involved in smoking cessation trials, amongst other things. And as a preventive cardiologist, of course, it's something that I'll often refer my patients to. Typically, I would ask patients, one, have they tried other methodologies? Obviously, we talked about cold turkey and
the 5 behavioral modifications.
And the 5 behavioral modifications. Yep. And we talked about the different forms of nicotine replacement, whether it be a topical replacement as a patch or something you put in your mouth chewing. We even talked about chewing tobacco and
vaping a little bit.
Yeah, we're talking about vaping, and these are all different ways of getting it. And the IQOS system, which is heating the tobacco rather than burning the tobacco, which is approved in Japan. And we just got late word that the FDA has given its okay on that, but there is a patent dispute. So it's about an intellectual property issue that is preventing it from being widely available in the U.S. market. It's just to throw that out there. So there's a lot of different options, but sometimes even all those options fail. Actually, the other option we didn't talk about is sometimes smoking addiction is really strongly connected with depression. So using antidepressant therapies can sometimes be helpful.
Well, and Dr.
Wellbutrin is the one that's most well known for that. It's a drug that has multiple properties, and it's used for antidepressant reasons, but actually probably it's been sold more as a nicotine aid, a nicotine cessation aid than anything else, I would think. I don't know if the numbers speak for that.
No, absolutely.
Yeah.
Actually, that was one of the adverse effects that they found during the depressive studies with Wellbutrin was that people stopped smoking. They didn't have as much urge to smoke, so they go, well, let's do another study on smoking cessation.
Yeah, so interesting, and that happens a lot in clinical trials. It's actually one of the benefits of doing clinical trials. You know, obviously, we're focused on the side effect profile, but sometimes side effects can be good.
Mm-hmm. Right. You want them to happen.
And there's lots of examples of that. The most famous example is actually Viagra, which was developed as an anti-anginal drug and then turned out to be a whole new way of treating erectile dysfunction. But anyway, getting back to the studies, so right now we're working on these drugs that specifically stimulate receptors in the brain that are responsible for creating that dopamine surge that makes people want to smoke. And Dr. Rothstein knows a lot more about the details than I do, and I actually have some questions for him about it. But the concept, of course, is that these are comprehensive programs. They are placebo-controlled, so not everybody will necessarily be on the active therapy, but all the standard elements of treating patients will be part of it, including behavior modification. Is a nicotine replacement allowed, or do you remember offhand? Okay.
No nicotine replacement. And in fact, you have to be, if you've used any other form of smoking cessation, you have to be washed out for at least 2 months before you can participate in the trial.
Okay. And once people are randomized in the trial, which is the process of choosing which part of the study they're involved, are they getting the active drug or getting a placebo, then usually there's more leeway in terms of other things, because it would be hard ethically to tell a patient that's in a clinical trial that that they're in big trouble because they use some nicotine gum, but you'd be measuring that. And one of the things, the reason it's done that way is scientifically you want to see if that urge for nicotine is different. But I'm pretty sure, just based on my general knowledge of clinical trials, is that that's one of the things they would track to see what other nicotine replacement products people are using.
Yeah, they're actually the two things that they're tracking on this are not other nicotine replacement things. They're looking at carbon monoxide levels and content levels.
Okay.
So they're not checking for nicotine.
So they're not trusting the patients, basically.
Right.
So
Well, that was my next question: is that can you trust them to be honest?
Well, that's part. So it was interesting when they're looking at how people are considered failures in the study. The failures are either they admit to smoking in the study, or they're caught with conflicting data. They're saying they're not smoking and they have an elevated carbon monoxide level, or their content levels are high.
Right.
So,
which is a nicotine metabolite. Yeah. So that makes sense. It's going to be more objective. So again, the pronunciation of this drug is a little tricky. Is it Cytisinicline? Is that the way you pronounce it?
I believe you're correct.
Okay.
I wasn't going to try it. I have it.
They used to call
Not
it
touching that.
Cytisinicline, which is the way it's pronounced in Europe.
Right.
When it came to the United States, they had a...
Cytisinicline.
They had to add a vowel. I mean,
Was that a patent dispute?
I don't know, because it's not a controlled substance there, right? It's
Oh, really? Okay.
It's a plant. It's a plant-based therapy. So
Do you know what plant it comes from?
it's an alkaloid plant, nitrogen-based, and I think it's the cytisine, whatever.
Does
I can
anybody
look it up.
does anybody smoke that plant in Europe?
No, just swallow it.
so what is it designed to do?
So so it works at the nicotine receptor in the central nervous system, and as Mike has said, and we've been talking about, when that receptor is stimulated, it releases dopamine, and dopamine is what makes you feel good and makes you want to then smoke again. So this acts kind of as a blocker a blocker as well as an agonist, which means it releases some dopamine, but it also kind of inhibits the release of too much dopamine. And then your body kind of wants to adjust to all these receptors being filled up with this new molecule. And as it does that, it kind of neutralizes the effect of additional dopamine release. So you don't get more and more dopamine release because you have more and more of this drug floating around. So it kind of limits your upside in terms of the benefit of the dopamine release from the nicotine receptor, and doesn't allow the nicotine receptor to interact with anything else that will release more dopamine.
Okay. Yeah. I mean, it sounds like a pretty powerful product to help. Yeah.
It's been successful there for years.
Yeah.
Now, in the trials, does it matter if you've had Chantix before or Wellbutrin before, or does that matter at all?
As long as you're washed out, it's one of the inclusion criterion for getting into the study is that you have to have tried to stop before. And then the other issue, besides not wanting people that are in childbearing age to participate in the study, is you have to smoke at least 10 cigarettes a day, you have to be over the age of 18, and you have to be willing to set a quit date where you're going to stop smoking.
Yeah, our producer just gave me a note saying that cytisine comes from the golden rain tree. It's a seed of the golden rain tree. So that's a nice little piece of trivia. Thanks, producer.
Yes, thank you. Now I want to know where this tree is located. It sounds like a nice tree.
Well, I'll have to do more research on that. Is why they call it the golden rain tree.
Right. So in the clinical trials, are you using the group support system to help people get over their addiction?
So the support system for this clinical trial is telephone. So they have to speak with a advisor at least once a week. Where they are, they can speak with them more than that, but that's part of the criterion to move forward with the study, is you have to be involved in some type of behavioral therapy with someone guiding you along the way.
Is it easy to know who's on the placebo and who's not in a trial like this?
No, not.
Well, no, I'm just asking because, if people are really trying to overcome an addiction.
It's actually a great question. And anytime that you're interacting with people, the interaction itself may have an impact. And so you actually asked a really, really great question, because in a lot of studies that we do, including depression studies, the people who are on the placebo get better. In fact, it's the biggest problem in depression studies, that there's a huge benefit to just talking, to just being in a clinical trial. And it's the same thing for smoking, is that you're basically in a clinical trial, which is a support group. And that in of itself is going to help people. So it's anticipated in these trials that your quit rates, whether or not you're on the drug, on the active drug, will be much higher than would be in other circumstances. So it's a very, very important, cool part of what we do.
Yeah.
That's stunningly true. In fact, when they were comparing quit rates with the other forms of medications that we use, Wellbutrin or Chantix, they used it as relative to placebo. So all of a sudden, the quit rates for people in these studies, where we know the average quit rate is about 6%, the placebo group in these studies were quitting at a rate of 10%. So you had to beat 10% to show that one of these drugs was actually doing anything.
Wow. And are you doing these trials constantly? Is this something that is always happening?
This particular study is, I think there's 12 centers in the United States that are participating. They're looking at enrolling, there's 3 arms in the study, and they're looking at enrolling about 250 patients in each arm. So we're eagerly hoping that patients will want to participate in this and give us a call and get involved in this early, because we're pretty sure that this kind of a study is something that will fill relatively rapidly.
Now, in Europe, where it's approved, do people use this for lifetime, or how do they go from initial quitting to long-term maintenance?
The initial use of the medication, which is being changed because the United States experience is different than Europe, is a 25-day course. So the course here is going to be for 6 weeks. And one of the arms in our study is going to be another 6 week, a 12-week arm. But it's not going to, whether or not people are going to benefit from the additional time, nobody really knows. People that participated in some of the trials have said that, yeah, I think I would have done better if I had another few weeks with the medicine. And whether or not there's people that remain on it indefinitely is not known yet either. But traditionally, it was just a 25-day course.
Got it. Yeah, and that's the other thing in these type of studies is that you have the acute interventional phase and then the long-term phase. And sometimes we have to do the research in the first phase before we go to the other phase. Sometimes there'll be a long-term extension. I don't know if it's a case here, or there has to be some sort of strategy afterwards. So maybe that first 25 days is enough to get you off the worst of the addiction, which we know is the case. The cravings for tobacco are the worst in the first 3 days, and then once you get past that, it becomes significantly less. But that transition zone is still going to be an important scientific question for the future, and a practical question, of course.
Well, and you're getting the conversation started with the people. Honestly, you're getting them thinking about it, the behavioral changes that they need to make, and hopefully, geared towards success following that.
Yeah, and again, even quite frankly, even if you quit for short periods of time, your heart's happy about that. Your blood pressure's happy about that. Your brain's happy about that.
Right.
And so certainly there's a lot of, you can be very nihilistic about it and say, well, I'm going to eventually get back to smoking anyhow because everybody does. Or you can say, okay, well, I'm going to keep on trying and be like Mark Twain and keep on quitting.